is about a nation's cry for justice, echoing through the icy walls of a European courtroom. It's about the Nigerian government trying to criminalize free speech, and a fearless lawyer named Cal Gomez turning their own evidence into dust. In a stunning moment that had even critics applauding, Cal Gomez transformed Simon Ekpa's trial from a local prosecution into a global reckoning. What started as an accusation built on tweets has exploded into an international human rights case, one that may redefine how the world views freedom of expression, political resistance, and the silent war on Biafra. This isn't just news, it's history unfolding. Stay with us as we uncover how one courtroom showdown could change everything for Biafra, for Simon Ekpa, and for millions still waiting to be heard. Simon Ekpa's lawyer, Cal Gomez, stunned observers at the Päijät-Häme District Court in Finland with a sharp and well-structured legal defense. The prosecution presented several tweets from Simon Ekpa posted in 2024, trying to use them as evidence to tie him to incitement and terrorism. One tweet from November 16, 2024, stated, "This will not save you terrorists," and mentioned burning Nigerian flags. Prosecution claimed this was evidence of violent intent. Cal Gomez argued the tweet was political expression and protected by international and Finnish laws, as it lacked direct incitement or specific instructions for violence. He emphasized that symbolic language like "burn the flag" is abstract and not a call to immediate action, thus falls under freedom of speech. He broke the tweet down under multiple legal contexts, including political speech, lack of criminal intent, context of grievance, and proportionality in criminal charges. The Finnish court has precedent for requiring solid, verified evidence, especially when the case is tied to events in Nigeria, where sources may be unreliable. Cal Gomez also pointed out that the tweet reflected frustration with Nigeria's political system, which is legally permissible to express in Finland. Another tweet where Simon Ekpa announced hiring US lawyer Amanda Berry to represent the Biafran government was questioned by the prosecutor as proof of deeper political intent. Cal Gomez countered by stating the tweet was a factual, harmless announcement of legal representation, not a threat or illegal plan. He argued hiring a lawyer, even a high-profile one, for any purpose is not a crime, and it falls squarely within a citizen's right to seek counsel. Cal Gomez added that the tweet was part of strategic political messaging, not criminal conspiracy, and aligned with free speech rights. He repeatedly reminded the court that no part of Simon Ekpa's tweets contained violent threats, instructions, or coercive language. In another tweet from November 14, 2024, Simon Ekpa called Bola Ahmed Tinubu a criminal and declared him unwelcome in Biafran territory, which prosecution said was illegal. Cal Gomez defended the tweet as an opinion-based political commentary, saying Simon Ekpa has the right to express disapproval of public figures. He argued that calling a leader names or opposing their visit is provocative but not illegal or inciting violence, as long as no specific instructions were given. The most critical tweet was one where Simon Ekpa appeared to claim responsibility for a gunfight between Biafran forces and Cameroonian soldiers, which led to deaths. Cal Gomez challenged the prosecution to provide video or audio proof of Simon Ekpa's involvement, arguing tweets alone are not conclusive evidence. When the prosecutor admitted they had no such evidence, the judge reportedly took note, weakening that part of the case. Cal Gomez's multi-layered, eloquent, and legally sound defense caused public observers and even critics to applaud him, showing that Simon Ekpa's legal team was gaining the upper hand in court. When history writes its most painful chapters, it often starts with a silent scream. A scream from a people who have been systematically excluded, criminalized for daring to dream, and brutalized for demanding dignity. That has been the tragic reality for the people of Biafra, especially the Igbo people in Nigeria. From the dark days of the Biafran genocide in the late 1960s, to the current persecution of peaceful agitators like Njoku and Simon Ekpa, the Biafran story is a bleeding wound that has refused to heal. But in a cold courtroom in Finland, far away from the blood-stained soil of southeastern Nigeria, a remarkable moment unfolded. A moment that could shift the narrative and offer hope to a movement that has refused to die. At the Päijät-Häme District Court in Finland, something extraordinary happened. A lawyer by the name of Cal Gomez, standing for Simon Ekpa, pulled apart the weak allegations thrown at his client with surgical brilliance. With every word he uttered, he didn't just defend a man, he defended a people, a cause, and a history that the world has tried for too long to ignore. This wasn't just a legal defense. It was an international declaration that the Biafran struggle for justice is alive and righteous. But to understand what happened in that courtroom, we must first go back. We must understand why Simon Ekpa stood there in the first place, charged with crimes that many believe are politically motivated, based on twisted interpretations of tweets, and bolstered by unreliable evidence from a government that has historically used force to silence dissent. The Nigerian government, over the years, has consistently used its military and security forces to crush any form of political self-determination, especially when it comes from the southeast. This was the case during the Biafran War from 1967 to 1970, when over 3 million Biafrans, mostly Igbos, were starved, bombed and slaughtered in what the world still struggles to fully recognize as a genocide. Since then, things haven't changed much. Peaceful protesters have been shot dead. Cultural gatherings have been declared criminal assemblies. Entire villages have been raided by soldiers, and outspoken leaders like Njoku and Simon Ekpa have been demonized and hunted as enemies of the state. So, when Simon Ekpa tweeted in 2024, expressing frustration, anger and determination, it wasn't done in a vacuum. It was done in the context of decades of unaddressed pain. The tweet that said, "This will not save you, terrorists," was the one that prosecution tried to weaponize. They said it was proof of violent intent, pointing to a reference to burning Nigerian flags. But what they refused to understand, or deliberately ignored, is that symbolic protest is not violence. It is speech. It is protected speech under Finnish and international law. Cal Gomez understood this deeply. He broke down that tweet before the court with calm clarity. He argued that what Simon Ekpa expressed was political rage, not a call to violence. Burning a flag, Gomez said, is not arson, it is protest. And even if many found the language uncomfortable, it did not meet the threshold of incitement under Finnish legal standards. He reminded the court that in Finland, as in many democracies, people are allowed to be angry at their governments. They are allowed to use provocative language to draw attention to political injustice. And what injustice has been more ignored in Africa than the suffering of the Biafrans? The next tweet under scrutiny was the one where Simon Ekpa proudly announced that Amanda Berry, a respected American lawyer, would be representing the Biafran government. Prosecutors pounced on this, saying it was proof of a deeper plot. But Cal Gomez cut through the noise. He explained that hiring legal counsel is not a crime. It is a fundamental right. And more importantly, the act of announcing it publicly showed that there was nothing secretive or sinister about it. If anything, it showed transparency and a belief in law, not violence. The court seemed to listen. Then came the more controversial tweet. The one where Simon Ekpa allegedly took responsibility for a gunfight between Biafran fighters and Cameroonian soldiers. This tweet, if proven to be more than just words, could be used to paint Simon as a warlord, a commander of violent groups. But again, Cal Gomez turned the tide. He demanded evidence, not tweets, not assumptions, but real, verifiable proof. Where is the video? Where is the audio? Where is the communication link between my client and anyone on the ground? He asked. The prosecution had no answer, no tapes, no messages, no witnesses, just a tweet. And in a country like Finland, which prides itself on its commitment to the rule of law and due process, that wasn't good enough. At that point, even the judge seemed to take note. What Cal Gomez achieved was not just a tactical courtroom victory. He brought global attention to the fact that the Nigerian government has been using foreign courts and dubious evidence to target political dissidents abroad. And that is where the story expands into something much larger. The Finnish court has already shown in past cases that it does not easily trust information coming from countries where the rule of law is weak or politically influenced. Nigeria has one of the worst records when it comes to human rights enforcement, and its judicial system has been repeatedly accused of being a tool for political persecution. In Simon Ekpa's case, this suspicion is not only justified, it is necessary. Because this is not just about a tweet. This is about who gets to speak. This is about what stories get told. And for too long, the story of Biafra has been drowned in the official narrative of unity and peacekeeping by a Nigerian government that has used tanks and bullets to enforce silence. Simon Ekpa, like Nnamdi Kanu before him, represents a new generation of Biafran activists who are not picking up guns. They are picking up microphones, mobile phones, and social media platforms. They are challenging the lie that Nigeria is one nation under God, indivisible, while millions in the southeast live under military siege, constant surveillance, and systemic economic strangulation. Simon's trial is exposing all this to the world, and the brilliant defense mounted by Cal Gomez is giving voice to truths that have long been buried. As the trial continues, many observers believe that this could mark a turning point. If the Finnish court rules in Simon's favor, it will not only be a legal victory, it will be a political earthquake. It would show that the international community is beginning to see through the lies, to question the criminalization of political expression, and to acknowledge the legitimacy of Biafran grievances. And those grievances are many. The southeast of Nigeria continues to suffer from lack of federal investment, low representation in national leadership, and military occupation under the guise of internal security. From Operation Python Dance to the Lekki Toll Gate massacre, from the prescription of IPOB to the arrest and detention of Nnamdi Kanu without due process, the Nigerian state has made it clear that Igbo voices are not welcome in the national conversation, unless they are silent or submissive. But the Biafran people have never been silent, and they are not about to start now. Simon Ekpa's legal journey is about more than one man's freedom. It is about the global Biafran movement's legitimacy. It is about reminding the world that the right to self-determination is enshrined in international law. It is about reclaiming the narrative from those who would reduce a people's cry for justice to a handful of misunderstood tweets. And if there is a solution to this decades-long crisis, it begins with listening. It begins with recognizing that force cannot replace dialogue, that jail cannot erase identity, and that silence cannot kill a dream that millions still carry in their hearts. That is what Cal Gomez reminded the world in that courtroom. With his clear mind and fierce advocacy, he didn't just defend a man named Simon Ekpa. He defended the soul of Biafra. He defended the right of every marginalized people to speak, to resist, and to hope. The trial is still ongoing. More legal battles will come. But one thing is certain. Biafra is still winning. Not with bombs, but with words. Not with violence, but with truth. And truth, when spoken boldly in a courtroom, can shake even the most stubborn empires. For Simon Ekpa, for Nnamdi Kanu, for every Biafran child who died in the hunger blockade, for every family torn apart by military raids, for every voice that was silenced too soon. This is more than a trial. This is history answering back. In that silent courtroom in Finland, far removed from the cracked roads and smoky skies of Abia, Enugu, or Anambra, the voice of Cal Gomez became the echo of millions who could not speak for themselves. He stood not just as a defense attorney, but as a vessel for history. Every time he objected, Every time he cited a legal precedent, every time he explained the cultural and political context behind a tweet, he was doing what many African leaders have failed to do. He was defending the Biafran identity as lawful, legitimate, and deserving of dignity. The court proceedings have become more than a legal matter. They are now a stage for international recognition. With each court session, news agencies, human rights observers, legal analysts, and supporters of indigenous movements around the world tune in. Social media floods with updates and hashtags like #Free Simon Ekpa, #Biafra is legal, and #Biafra will rise again. What began as an attempt to silence Simon has turned into an accidental amplification of his voice. And perhaps that is one of the most painful miscalculations of the Nigerian authorities. They thought that dragging Simon Ekpa to court in a distant European nation would be the final nail in the coffin of a movement that has refused to die. But they didn't count on one thing, that in Finland, evidence matters. Truth matters. Context matters.